Hello, and praise the Lord, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to another broadcast of Milk for Babes, Strong Meat for Grown-ups. It's a spinoff from my book of the same title, Milk for Babes, Strong Meat for Grown-ups. Before I go any further, again, let me please allow me to say hello and thank you again to Pastor Kevin Strouder, the president and CEO of the GMAP Business and Broadcast Network. Thank you, Pastor Strouder, for providing this platform for us to be able to share together. All right, with that out the way, let's get at it again. Let's have a drink or take a bite. I'll share this evening from something I've written in my book, Milk for Babes, Strong Meat for Grown-ups. I'll share this evening unpacking something that is included or I've written on page 1 of my book, Milk for Babes and Strong Meats for Grown-ups. So if you do have a book, you can open up to page 1 and you can get just a brief synopsis of what I'll be from this evening. What I'll do is unpack that which is on page 1 of my book. Milk and honey. You would find that on page 1. Milk and honey. I will say, good. Nice and nutritious too. Milk and honey is. Excuse me. It is very nice and nutritious, milk and honey is. And lots of health benefits milk and honey offers as well. With that though, up with all of these cows and bees that we keep running into every time we turn around. What's up with the cows and the bees? No one said anything about cows and bees. We're foraging for milk and honey. So whence come the cows and the bees? Turn to Exodus 3 and verse 7 with me, if you will, if you have your Bibles. Exodus 3 and verse 7. Let's unpack this bit about milk and honey this evening. Exodus 3 and 7. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and I've heard their cry of their taskmasters. For I know their sorrows, verse 8, Exodus 3 and 8. And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. That's Exodus 3, 7, and 8. Again, let's look at Deuteronomy 32 and verse 13. Deuteronomy 32 and verse 13. He made him ride in the heights of the earth, that he might eat the produce of the fields. He made him draw honey from the rock and oil from the flinty rock. Verse 14. Curds from the cattle and of the flock. Now let's talk a little bit about the health benefits of milk and honey. Milk and honey are both two popular and very powerful ingredients that offer several promising health benefits. In particularly, they may improve sleep quality, enhance bone strength, and promote heart health. Milk contains many vital nutrients that are very important for growth and development, as well as for overall good health. There are good reasons for milk being so very popular. One reason, it's affordable. Milk is very affordable. Second, it has health benefits. And three, it is extremely versatile. You can use milk in just about anything that you're cooking. It is an ingredient that is so versatile, you can use it in just about anything that you are preparing to eat. It's extremely versatile, milk is. Milk is also used to make cheese. It's used to make butter. Milk is used to make milk powder. That's just to name a few of the benefits of milk. Milk positively impacts our health. By building strong and healthy bones, milk helps. Producing healthy teeth, milk helps. Keeping muscles strong, heart health, producing glowing skin. Reducing stress, and last but not least, boosting energy. Milk has a numerous amount of health benefits to our bodies. These are just a few of the health benefits that milk provides for us. Now, as for honey, honey contains antibacterial and antiseptic properties. It fights off bacteria and other types of germs. Honey is a natural sweetener. I believe we all know that. It is used to treat wounds and it fights off infections. That's uses of honey. All of these wonderful health benefits of milk, honey. But still yet, the question is hanging out there. What's up with all of these cows and bees we're constantly running into every time we look up? No one mentioned anything about cows and bees. We're after the milk and the honey. But oh, you might have missed it. Read and listen again. You've got to read between the lines. You've got to learn to read between the lines and never overlook the fine print when you're reading a document. To obtain milk, you must first engage cows. In order to get milk, first engage the cows. That's in the fine print. You don't want to overlook the fine print. That's between the lines. You've got to learn to read between the lines. In order to obtain milk, you must first engage the cows. To get honey, you've got to get in contact with, you've got to come in contact with. In order to get honey, you've got to encounter bees and hives. If there's no bees, if there's no hives, if there's no beehives, you can't get honey. In order to get milk, you've got to engage the cows. In order to obtain honey, you've got to encounter bees and hives. I find this interesting, though, in the text that I read. I find it very interesting as when God says to Moses, I am come. This is God speaking to Moses now, informing Moses that he has come down to deliver them, to deliver the children of Israel out of Egypt, to take his children out of bondage to a very prosperous land. So God says to Moses, I am come down to deliver them and to bring them out unto a good land and a large, God says to Moses, unto a land flowing with what? Milk and honey. God didn't say anything about cows and bees. He says, I am taking them, I am delivering them out of bondage, out of to a land flowing with milk and honey. This is interesting to me because in another life, if it was me who God encountered, if it was me who God came and spoke these words to in another life, and saying that he has come to deliver, he has come to rescue his children out of Egypt's bondage, to take them to a land flowing with milk and honey. If I was in Moses' place at the time when God encountered him at that burning bush, and God spoke these words to me, my initial thought would be of God. Well, God, since you have come to deliver your people, since you have come to do all of that, fine, that is great. That is just dandy. But what does that have to do with me? What do you have, you coming to deliver your people out of Egypt's bondage, to rescue them, to deliver them to the land of promise? You've come to do that, God. Now, what does that have to do with me? That would have been probably my first initial thoughts concerning what God spoke to Moses. But I wouldn't stop there now. I wouldn't ask that question now, because I've grown accustomed to reading between the lines, and I've grown accustomed to reading the fine prints, paying close attention to the becoming grown and fully mature in the Lord and understanding God. I have grown to read between the lines. I have grown to pay attention to the fine prints. I've come to understand that God usually enlists and expects men to milk cows. God enlists and expects man to attend to beehives. God requires man to milk cows if he wants to drink milk. God requires man to attend to beehives if he desires to taste the sweet honey. We've been so used to hearing a whole lot about milk and honey, the many marvelous blessings and promises that God has made to us. We hear a lot about the milk and the honey, the great and mighty, marvelous, wonderful blessings that God has promised us. But rarely do we hear anything about milking cows and attending to beehives. We hear a lot about the blessings of God flowing like milk and honey, but very rarely we hear anything about milking cows and attending to beehives. The long and arduous task of obtaining those precious promises. If you're going to drink milk, if you're going to taste sweet honey, there's an arduous task of milking cows. There's an arduous task of attending those beehives to receive the precious promises so to speak, to obtain the land flowing with milk and honey. We've got to learn to milk cows. We've got to learn to attend to beehives. The promises of God are never obtained neatly packaged and just handed over to us. Never is the promise of God well packaged, neatly packaged, just ready for you to walk up and take it, neatly packaged, without no work, without no energy, without no effort being expanded. The promises of God are never obtained neatly packaged, ready to be over to us. No, not at all. More times than not, instead of receiving milk, we inherit a herd of cows. We want milk, but instead of getting the milk neatly packaged, we inherit a herd of cows. Instead of honey, the sweet honey that we're longing to taste, we normally run into a swarm of bees. We're after the honey, but here comes the swarm of bees instead of the honey. If you ever intend to drink milk, if milk is on your menu, if milk is anywhere in the recipe of whatever you're after, you become skilled milk extractor. You've got to learn to hold the nipples and tug on those nipples until milk begins to flow. Milk won't flow until you become very skilled at being a skilled milk extractor. If you aim to taste the sweet honey at all, you'll have to first learn the art of attending to beehives. Huh. You've got to learn how to milk cows if you want to drink milk, and you've got to learn how to attend to beehives if you want to ever taste that sweet honey. If you ever want to obtain the promise in the promised land, if you ever want to enter the land of milk and honey, you've got to learn how to extract milk from a cow. You've got to learn how to get honey out of the beehive. But let me warn you of this. Expect to be kicked a few times by those cows. Expect to be stung a few times, once or twice, if not a few more times by the bees. You won't be getting that milk without a few kicks. You will never obtain the honey without a few stung, or without getting stung a few times before you get good at extracting milk, before you become a skilled milk extractor, and before you learn fully the art of attending to beehives. You're going to get kicked a few times, and you will be stung a few times. Beware. But do you want the milk? Do you want the honey? Well, a few kicks and a few sting can never keep me from my milk and honey. I've been kicked multiple times. I've been stung multiple times, but I'm becoming better and better. I'm getting more skilled. I'm becoming more professional at extracting milk from cows. And I'm becoming more skilled at the art of attending bees. Though I've been kicked, though I've been stung, I will never give up, because it has too many benefits. Honey is too sweet, and it has too many benefits. I'll never give up on that. Many of us have heard the old proverb, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. But you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. How many of us are guilty? How many of us who are watching, who are listening to this broadcast, how many of you are guilty of praying and believing and hoping and trusting and just waiting on God to do for you something that God has already conditioned you to do? How many of you are believing God and trusting God and God to do something for you, not even realizing that God has already given you the ability, God has already given you the authority, and he has already opened up the opportunity for you to do those things for yourself? You want the milk and you want the honey. God gives you the cow, God gives you the bee and the hives, and you're sitting there waiting on God to do something for you. He's not going to milk that cow. God is not going to tend to that beehive. That's what he enlists you to do, because you desire the milk and the honey. You desire to enter the promised land. You desire those precious promises that God has made to you. So you've got to learn how to extract milk from cow, and you've got to learn the tending beehives. God doesn't intend just to keep on giving us handout. No, he doesn't. Instead, God teaches, he equips, God prepares, God empowers us to do many of these things for ourselves, instead of sitting around waiting on God to work these great and mighty miracles for us or on our behalf. God has already equipped, he has already taught us, he's already prepared us, he's empowered us to be able to do these things for ourselves. Our holdup, our problem lies in the unpacking of the packages that hold all of these precious promises. Our issue, our holdup, our problem is trying to get the milk. Maybe no, we're just probably sometimes too lazy to get the milk out of the cow. We're too lazy to get the honey out of the beehives. We're sitting down waiting for God to milk cows for us. We're sitting down waiting for God to attend to the beehives to get the honey for us, when God has taught us, he has equipped us, he has prepared us, he has empowered us, given us the ability to do these things for ourselves. We will never, I repeat, we will never find milk nicely packaged in containers on shelves in a refrigerator. You will never find your milk nicely packaged in a container on the shelf in your refrigerator. No, nor honey in jars neatly stacked on a shelf in your neighborhood corner grocery store. You won't find your milk that way. You won't find your honey that way. Not before the work is done anyway. That milk will never get on that shelf. That milk will never get in that refrigerator. That honey will never get on that shelf before the work is done of milking the cow, before the work is done of attending your beehives. That's how the milk and the honey will get from the cow and from the bee to your refrigerator or to your cupboard in your kitchen. If milk and honey ever makes it to your refrigerator or in your cupboard, on a shelf in your pantry, it's guaranteed it will be you or someone else on your behalf who first milked a cow or who first attended to a beehive. If the milk ever get from the cow to your refrigerator, you milked that cow or someone else did for you. If that honey ever get in your pantry, you attended a beehive unless someone else did it for you. But it will never get to your refrigerator, that milk. That honey will never get to a shelf on your pantry until the work is done, until you milk a cow or until you attended to a beehive. It will never be extracted. It will never be produced until you produce it. God has given you all the tools that you need, that we need to be able to get our milk and to be able to obtain our honey. But we've got to get to milking cows and attending beehives. You can be certain that milk or that honey didn't get from there to your house, to your refrigerator, or to your pantry before someone did some work. It didn't get there on its own volition. Somebody had to work it out. Most times, and probably even more than most times, we will have to get on with milking. Most times, or even more than most times, we'll have to get on with attending our beehives. So, I encourage you, go ahead, go on, get busy, get on with milking your cows, get on with attending your beehives because you love milk. There's a lot of health benefits to milk. You love the sweet honey. There's a whole lot of health benefits of honey. You're after the honey. You're after the milk. But you keep running into cows and wondering what's up. You're after the honey. But every time you look up, here comes a swarm of bees. And you're wondering, what's up with these bees? I'm out here trying to get honey. Well, your eyes better become open quick to realize honey is in them bees. Milk is in them their cows. So get busy in milking cows and attending beehives. Now, it may sound like I've been speaking to you in riddles. Can I speak plainly to you for a moment? There is nothing worth having that is not worth sweating for. There is nothing worth obtaining that is not worth for. Even if you've been kicked, even if you've been disappointed, even if you've been stopped in your tracks time after time, if you intend to drink milk, if you intend to progress, if you intend to succeed, if you intend to obtain the blessings of God, to possess the great and mighty promises, the wonderful promises that God has made to you, we have got to get up off of our laurels and get busy to doing the work in order to obtain the promises, in order to obtain the blessings. I encourage you, don't get disappointed. Don't become because you failed time and time again. If at first you don't succeed, what do they say to do? You try and try again. That's because you've been kicked once. You may have been kicked twice. May have been kicked numerous times. But keep trying, keep going at it. Don't let the cows dissuade you. Don't let looking at all those herd of cows and knowing the task at hand of having to milk those cows or having to get up and go to that job. If it's working at Burger King or McDonald's or at a hot dog joint, and you're only getting paid minimum wage, that's a stepping stone. That's learning how to milk cows. If it's a job that be working at a garbage dump and you're in the recycling area, and a friend of mine told me that was the worst job he's ever had to stand on a garbage dump or in a garbage dump recycling trash from trash, standing on top of trash, recycling trash out of a bin to put in another bin full of trash, and it stinks. And when you get off work, you smell as stink as the trash dump. But that's learning how to milk cows. You being kicked, but you learning how to milk cows. You being stung by them bees, going to work and having to work for that employer who don't appreciate you. That's being stung, but guess what? You're learning the art. Beehives. So don't become discouraged. Keep at it. You watch or you see others who have obtained, others who have prospered, others who are doing so well, and sometimes you envy them and wonder how come it's not happening for me. That's because you don't know how many times they have been stung tending their beehives. You don't know how many times they've been kicked learning how to milk cows, and they stuck to it long enough. They had this stick-to-itiveness in them, and they stuck with it long enough to become professional milk extractors. They stuck with it long enough to have become very skilled at the art of attending beehives. You can become just as proficient as attending your beehives if you stick to it, just as you see others have obtained. That's because they stuck to it. They didn't give up. But the milk is sweet and beneficial. The honey is sweet and beneficial. It has so many benefits for us. And that's why even me writing this book, Milk and Honey, I am learning the art still of milking my cows. So this book is a part of me learning how to milk cows. This book is a part of me attending beehives. And I have a whole lot of beehives that I'm about to attend to. And I have a whole lot of a large herd of cows that I'm milking because I love milk, of honey. Though I be kicked by the cows, though I be stung by the bees, milk and honey is it for me. Well, we'll pause here until next week and take some time to listen, to reflect, and to prepare. Father, I thank you now for this time you've blessed us to be able to share together. I pray, Lord, for every listener, every hearer, that their listening may not be in vain. That which they have heard, Father, I pray that it will stir them, that it will give them an encouragement and inspiration to move on in milking their cows and in attending their beehives so that they may prosper. Even as their soul prosper, they may prosper and be in good health. Now bless them going and bless them coming. In Jesus' name, amen. Until next time, God bless you.